At 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and get started. I think we're missing two, Mr. Gully and Mr. Taylor. Call this meeting of the steering committee to order. First thing on our agenda would be to review the minutes from the February 1st meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to those minutes? Mr. Ford. Motion to approve the minutes is written. Second by Mr. Harsh. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Couple action items for tonight. First, pilot program. I'd like to take that up when Mr. King gets here. He said he might be running just a few minutes late. So, Mayor, can we go ahead and jump into item B, the retroactive pay policy, please?
Yes, sir. We had a change in pay came into the Human Resources Office, I think about the middle of last month, from one of the departments making a change to employees' pay, but they made it retroactive to about 2 months before. And I hadn't seen that. I talked to the county attorney and we talked to the staff individually. In the past, the county had paid those and abided by those. But on reviewing that, the county attorney strongly recommended we stop that practice. And he recommended that we do it as soon as possible. He looked at the county charter and it did allow me to go ahead and issue a policy on this, as it is not addressed in any current policy we've had, to say that in the future, any change in pay rate that's submitted to Human Resources is prospective. It means it takes effect at the beginning of the next pay period. However, this does need to go to the county commission for approval. But that's basically what it is they were doing retroactive pay. And so we would have to go back and calculate back pay for this case. I think it was 2 months before. And he said that that practice needs to stop.
I'm a little unclear on what department, where did this come to bearing, or is that an unfair question? Or did you say and I just didn't hear? On
what? I'm sorry, you're gonna have to, what was your question? Come to bearing, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you said that this had happened. Why did this happen? I guess is my question. What department?
This came from the EMS. They did a pay change on them. I think it was supposed to go into effect after a certain period of time. They were supposed to go up to a different rate, but for some reason it didn't get submitted on the date it was supposed to go into effect. My office didn't receive it until 2 months afterward. And so they made it retroactive. We talked to the county staff, talked to the county attorney. One of the things he asked is, had this been done in the past? And the staff had said, yes, this had been done in the past. So he said we could not treat this employee different than we've done the ones in the past without a valid reason to do so. So we didn't make that pay, but he strongly recommended, and his words were, this practice needs to stop and it needs to stop as soon as possible. So we, under the authority given to the mayor under the charter, I can issue a policy as long as it doesn't contradict the ordinance or policy in existence. We have no policy on this. So I did issue that policy yesterday. However, it does need to go to the county commission for inclusion in the personnel policy or passing it going forward. But this was strongly recommended by the county attorney. So we acted as quickly as we could based on his recommendation.
I believe I understand now. So we will need to do just to make sure that this is included in the new personnel policy when we approve it.
Given what Mr. Biller thinks we need to act as soon as possible, I would like to go ahead and just include it in the current personnel policy.
Okay. So we're going to prepare a resolution for this month.
Yeah, we'll have some prepared for this month, but he stressed that we get this resolved as soon as possible.
Anyone have any questions on this or comments?
I do.
Yes, sir.
That came out of EMS. Did they alert you to this prior to this, or did it just kind of get put on you?
They fill out, when they're supposed to get a raise or something, they fill out employee change form. So it says what the change is. I had no knowledge that that was coming until that form showed up in our office. Staff asked me, do we go ahead and pay it? I said, I'm not really sure. We contacted the county attorney. He spoke, we all had our staff there. He asked, has this been done in practice in the past? And it came out that yes, this had been done in the past. So county attorney said, and without some kind of valid reason, we can't treat that employee differently than we did the ones in the past. However, he said this needs to be the last one. It needs to be stopped as soon as possible.
Yeah, the prior situation set the precedent that you almost have to go with it for now until
Yeah.
you do something about it legally.
Yes, unless there was something that was different between the employees, which there was nothing that really set them apart. There was no reason to treat them differently than we did the employees in the past. But he said, if we issued this policy, get it out there, that gives everybody notice that that practice is no longer going to be followed. And so that should clear us going forward. We just need to make sure that we get this put in place.
I think this can just draft this as a resolution to go ahead and include this in personnel policy, have it ready for this month. I don't think this needs to go to any committees. It doesn't really affect budget and finance or anything like that. What's y'all's thoughts?
I would like to make a motion to move this forward to the full body to consider this for this upcoming month, because this is something we need to address as soon as we can. I agree.
Do have a motion to move it to full body. Mr. Clarity seconds. Any further discussion on this? Everybody understand what we're doing and why? Seeing no questions, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move it on, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you for taking care of that. Back up now to the pilot program. I will give a little bit of a 50,000-foot view on this, and I'm sure the mayor will want to, and I know Mr. King will also want to address this. This is something that we've been working on for actually several years, and have worked on quite diligently in the last, I'd say, 6 months to a year with Bob Rochelle and his law firm, taking what we had initially, holding focus group meetings with interested parties or people that will be affected, such as your property assessor, director of schools, people that would be most affected by this. What this is basically to attract industry. It's a deferment of their property taxes for a period of time or a percentage amount. And what we're running into is we've been told that in the past, 7 out of 10 inquiries that we've had from industry wanting to come into the county never follow up past the initial call when they find out we don't have a pilot program in place. So I think those statistics, as much as anything, is what has prompted us to look at this. I've been very involved in this. I wholeheartedly must say that I approve of the final drafts that we have before us. Without getting into a lot of the legal wording, if you would look at the sheet, I think this will explain it as simply as anything, this matrix sheet. It depends how they score as far as how many jobs, the pay scale of the jobs, what their capital investment is, as to what they would receive or even be offered. So I think you can see that it's not just an all or nothing thing, and it depends very much on circumstances. The way this is written is for us to basically, what we're hoping to do and hoping to have in place is this framework, this document, pre-approved by the county commission, and a board set up to do the review and to work with prospective clients. So many times these things are very time sensitive. A lot of times they require non-disclosure agreements and things like that that will keep that you want to limit the knowledge of even what's going on. So basically what the Industrial Development Board is asking for is a pre-approval for this. If it meets this criteria, this board of 3 people, which would consist of the mayor, the chairman of the industrial board, and 1 person selected by the county commission, would basically make a final decision on this. Because if it goes to every time that we have an inquiry having to come before the county commission in every instance, we're going to lose them before we ever get a chance to have them because of the time-sensitive nature. So we know this needs to go to budget and finance, absolutely, to look at well, and to go over it and basically give their input. You have the document there, it's no secret. You can read through it. If you have suggestions, it's certainly not locked in stone. And if you have questions, I think I can try to answer them. Mr. King can, we can get Senator Rochelle's office or the mayor, I'm sure, to try to answer any questions you might have. It's a complicated document because it's a legal document. And we tried to make it as simple as possible. And a lot of the information that's in there came out from what we started with. This is, I don't want to say nowhere near what we started with. But it is refined. It is refined quite a bit in a little bit simpler language, I think, to make that. So that's what it is. It is the normal. If we are serious about wanting to recruit industry, this is something we need to do. I think, what is it? Was it 60 out of the 90 counties have something in place like this already? You know, it's not odd to do this. It's odd to not do this. And like I say, we've been looking at it. I mean, we started this process even way back in Carol's administration. I mean, this has been, I think actually the mayor was on IDB when it was first tried to get the ball rolling on this. So that's, Mayor, Brian, y'all jump in, you know, or we can ask for questions and try to field it that way. If there's anything, major salient points that I overlooked, like I say, it's complicated. I think there's, but I think budget and finance certainly can look at it and make a recommendation to the full body. I don't plan to take this to the full body this month. It would probably, we'd take it up in budget and finance in case we need to get more time. We already have some big things that we're having to deal with there that we need to get out of the way, I think, before we tackle this. But I wanted us to get it, I guess you'd say, in the middle on the agenda to get started looking at it. Brian, do you want to?
Yeah, it can be complicated and overwhelming when you first start on it, but I'm gonna put it in layman's terms as best I can, and it'll make it really easier to grasp. Basically, what we as a community are doing is baiting a hook. We're baiting a hook to catch a fish. Now we're going to have to give away the worm, but we're going to catch the fish. Basically, what we have the opportunity to do is offer a pilot program, a payment in lieu of taxes, where we can freeze or adjust or abate the property taxes on a proposed piece of land that a phantom company will come in and want to buy, because they will more than likely want to use a phantom project name. It'll be a non-disclosure. We won't, only 1 or 2 people will really know who that company is. That's why it really can't be discussed as easily in open forums, because it'll move very, very quickly. But this document you have in front of you is a framework from within the parameters that the county commission will be empowering us to operate within. So as long as it falls within those parameters in this document, then we have a mechanism for doing one of these deals. So the first thing to remember is right now we have no industrial zone property available in Trousdale County. So the property that would be available at this point would be at Powercom, which we are drawing $0 of tax revenue off of now. So we're really not giving anything away. The parameters of this are a maximum of 7 years. Now it's a case by case basis. It's a company by company basis based on this matrix that you're looking at here that we will not be scoring. Let me make that clear. The scoring of this matrix is not done by the IDB or the mayor or Trousdale County. We have engaged a professional firm called Younger and Associates out of Jackson, Tennessee, and this is what they do nationwide. They have the national models for each one of these programs, and they look at the company. The company makes an application. The company pays a premium to the IDB to help cover the expense. So in the end, this is a cost neutral thing for the IDB. The company is paying for the right to apply. It's not a big amount. It's a percentage, 0.0005% of the deal. Once they make application, it goes directly to Younger and Associates for scoring. Once that scoring is done, it comes back to the 3-man preliminary approval team, which is the chairman of the county commission, the chairman of the industrial development board, the mayor, and the county commission will appoint a non-elected citizen to that. So you're covered by different branches of administration. Once it must pass that approval process. After it's scored, it must pass that 3-man committee to move to the next step. At any point in time in this process, it fails to pass. It's just a dead dog. It goes no further. Once it passes that 3-man process with the scoring, Younger is going to try to tell us, this is what you can give to draw them in. This is what you should give based on the size of their company, the property development, the personal property they're going to bring in, the investment in the community, the job creation. It's a very complex matrix that they put together. The pay, the base pay or the average pay. They're going to say, okay, this is what you should offer them. Now, let's say this company is going to come in and spend $25 million and they're going to produce 15 jobs. Those 15 jobs may only pay an average of $48,000 a year. Well, they may only qualify for a 3 or 4 year plan. That doesn't mean they're automatically going to get the 7-year maximum. That's just our maximum parameter that we're asking the commission to give us a fence line to operate within. The next company may come in and say, we're going to spend $75 million. We're going to hire 200 people and the average pay will be $72,000 a year. Well, they may get a 7-year plan. It all depends on the case-by-case basis based on the information from the professionals that score this with Matrix. Now, we will be working with Mr. Senator Bob Rochelle, is our attorney for the IDB. He is likely the most knowledgeable person in the state of Tennessee on pilot programs since he orchestrated many of the pilot procedures that the state of Tennessee uses today. So we have the best of the best giving us guidance and advice on this. So once he goes through that first scoring and it goes through that preliminary 3-man team, then it goes to budget and finance. Budget and finance then looks at it, and if they approve it based on all the information they have, it will then go to the IDB. The IDB will look at it as a final step. So it's a 3-tier approval program. Well, if the IDB approves it, basically what happens is that company transfers ownership of their property legally to the Industrial Development Board through a real estate closing that they have to pay for. And the IDB will hold ownership of that property during the term of the pilot program. So we have leverage. We have their property. We have rights to pull reports and have them report to us that they are meeting their obligations and their promises. You know, if they say they're going to come in and spend $50 million and hire 100 people, but they only spend $20 million and hire 6 people, we have a right to pull the policy. So basically the IDB, after all this is done, is just the steward or the administrator of this program. We don't really make the decisions. That's what these 3 tiers of approval process and scoring are for. At the end of that term, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is, for that particular company, then it goes through a property closing again, and it's transferred. If they fulfilled their contract with the IDB as a pilot program, they will be transferred back into their name as ownership, and then they will go to paying full property taxes on their developed property. Now, let's take, for example, if you have 20 acres out here that's undeveloped and it's a field and it's drawing about six, and the mayor had pulled some examples, it's drawing roughly $600 a year in property taxes. Well, it might be bringing in $48,000 or $50,000 a year at the end of this term. So we're not giving up much to get a whole lot. So we're getting a big paycheck down the road. Now, the benefit of having somebody like Senator Rochelle guide us is he can tell us all the mistakes that our county neighbors have made. Wilson County made a tragic mistake and gave a 40-year pilot to Dell, and it flopped or got bought out or something, and they got stuck. They never got the payback. So basically, we're putting on a pretty dress and we're trying to get a date to the dance. We want to make ourselves look appealing as possible so they will come into our community, dump all this money, employ some people. Now, I don't want you to get hung up on the property taxes, because the real reward is the jobs. The property taxes are a very small moving part of our reward. The jobs are the reward. Those people are going to spend money in our community. They're going to buy gas. They're going to go to the grocery store. If they live out of county, they're coming into our county. They're going to be eating breakfast and lunch and dinner and buying groceries and gas. So we're going to start capturing a lot more tax and revenue that we don't have now. So we think that this is.
I will say that that's one thing that Younger and Associates, they know what impact they will have, what the multipliers for the investment will be as far as the return. That's one reason that we have them involved in this.
Exactly right. This is not something that we are trying to do ourselves. We are relying on professionals that do this all day, every day. They're experts in their field, and we are absolutely confident that we have the best people to do it. So this is a framework that you're looking at here, and this matrix is just an example of the guidelines that Younger and Associates in Jackson will be scoring the company before it goes to the first tier of approval. But this is a very, very, very important thing for our community to have. Because Tennessee Central, just like Mr. Jewell said, Tennessee Central guesstimates, and this is a rough figure, that we're losing 7 out of every 10 inquiries on the very first day just because we don't have one in place.
Mr. Ford.
So basically what you're saying, this is just giving you the authority, or the court giving authority to give them a break in the taxes for a period of time. When I came on the court back in the 70s, our tax assessor, I won't call any names, there was 5 or 6 industries in Trousdale County, and he'd forgive taxes on all of them. They wouldn't pay a penny. I know y'all don't know nothing about it, but I'm telling you, it happened. And this is a legal way to do it without, and I agree, it should be, we should approve it in order to set ourselves in a position to get some decent industry. Not just industry, decent industry that will pay some decent wages, where our young people coming out of school will have a more incentives to stay home rather than go off wherever to get them a job. So I think it's a great thing. But our tax assessor took it on himself. Lo and behold, I was the idiot that caught it. And it was pretty good stink raised too. It ended after that year, I can tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. I know some larger counties and larger companies, they do, 10, 20 years is not unheard of, you know, and in the larger counties where you have a lot of industry, I know Murray County has done this for a lot of years, and they've always been very successful attracting industry. That's one reason that Saturn with Spring Hill is because they had something like this in place and knew how to, you know, to do that and to deal with it. But I was remiss in saying, meant to say that this was unanimous vote to do this, to send this forward on the Industrial Development Board's part. We've got some excellent people on the IDB. If you're not sure who they are, I'll be glad to tell you who some of them are. Pardon?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, this is not one person's brainchild. This has been through a lot of vetting and a lot of head scratching and trying to get to a product that we felt like was good for the county. Good for the county. So right now, Budget and Finance absolutely needs to look at it. I don't think any other will get it there, is my suggestion. Mr. Harsh, your
Move to refer this to pilot program with its policies and procedures to be reviewed by Budget and Finance.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion to send it on to Budget and Finance by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Ford. Any further discussion on it? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen, ladies. Appreciate it. I hope I'm afraid that my only fear on this is that we get too bogged down on little details that and fail to see the big picture. We need to try to focus on the big picture. But we'll take it up in Budget and Finance, but I do not plan to have it on this month's agenda for the commission. I want to make sure that we're clear with it, Budget, Finance, and everybody's good on it before we move it forward to the full body. Like I say, we still have some major things that we're trying to deal with and get taken care of. Mr. King, did you have something else?
Thank you, folks, for your confidence in helping me move this forward. This is good for our community, but I wanted to say that at our Budget and Finance meeting, Mr. Benson, who is Mr. Rochelle's right-hand man, will be there to help answer or clarify any legal questions you may have. That way you don't have to rely on me because I am not an attorney, obviously, but we're going to have the best people in the room to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll move on. A couple of other things real quick. This came up on the committee for resale of land, bought at delinquent tax sales. This was done by Resolution 2019-14-661, and we set the committee shall be comprised of 4 commissioners. Linda Sue Johnson was one of those. Since this was done by resolution, we can't just stick someone in there without doing an amendment to this resolution. So I will plan to have that on this month's agenda for us. I don't think there's any committee that this needs to go to. And I would trying to get someone that has knowledge of land values, land sales and things. If you'll see, most of Mr. Harsh, Mr. Ford, Mr. Ferguson will remain on it. And my suggestion is that Mr. Clarity, Commissioner Clarity, would be our 4th person to take Ms. Johnson's place on that. He works a lot of the auctions, so he sees what a lot of the land prices are, current values and things of that nature. And he has agreed to serve in that capacity. If there's anyone else that would like to nominate someone else, we can go through that procedure. If everybody's okay with him, we'll prepare an amendment to this resolution to name those 4. Because we are going to have some sales coming up. I think you said 7 possible properties.
Yeah, I believe it's 7. And just since most of the people who's already appointed or going to be appointed are here tonight, I'll just tell you, one of the dates I'm looking at is either March 29th or April 4th to have that meeting. And I need to check with Mr. Beller because he needs to be there to address this, and also the clerk and master, because you will have to set a minimum bid price when these go to, it's a sealed bid is how this is done. And you need to set a minimum bid price, and that bid price is the back taxes, interest, and penalties that are due, and the clerk and master has to calculate that through what the date of the sale, meaning that's when the bids are going to be open. She has to calculate that, and so she'll give you that information at that meeting, and I need to make sure she's available to be there.
Is the property over here at the bridge, is that one of the properties, or will we deal with that separately, or is there anything we need to do on receiving that? Or
No, we've already got legal title of that. Court gave it to us. That property right now is currently somewhat encumbered. The Tennessee Department of Transportation has to make some repairs on that bridge. And to do that, they're going to have to tear that building down to access the foundation of the bridge, because it shares a foundation with that building at 201 Broadway. And so they've asked us not to transfer that property or do anything with it. So right now we're in a holding pattern, trying to see, now that we have full ownership and not only legal, but also physical possession of the property, we're trying to get them in here and go ahead and get that building torn down because they wanted to move as quickly as possible.
will they be paying us for the building?
They'll be the ones tearing it down, so it should be no cost to us. They originally were looking at the county giving, buying it as a right of way. I had talked to some people about seeing if maybe once that's torn down, we could turn it into a parking lot for downtown. Based on that, TDOT said, well, what we could do is give them a construction easement for the time so they can come in, do all their construction and everything. And then at the end of the easement, they'd turn it back over to us. And then we could turn it into a parking lot or whatever we decided we want to do with it at that time.
We couldn't cut a deal with them to do the paving on the parking lot as a part of their little project?
The meeting I had, a question was asked by somebody else in another TDOT division, and that kind of stopped the meeting because they needed to get some clarification and run it up TDOT's flagpole. And that's where all discussion stopped. And I've been trying to follow up with them. They said, follow up with them when we got legal and physical possession of the property, which I did, but they have not responded yet. And I'm still trying to pester them about it, but that is discussions we're having. But they did firmly say, don't do anything with that property because we're going to have to access it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Mr. Ford?
Mayor, the only thing I could say about that, I don't have a problem with letting them have a use of the property, but I'd set a time limit on it. They may decide they won't keep it on and on and on.
Well, the way they explained to me is they were trying to get the project done. Once they tear it down, they want to move as quickly as possible because they're concerned about the safety of the bridge going forward. They didn't give a time frame or anything because the meeting I was in was just the initial meeting with utilities and whatnot. And like I said, somebody asked a question that was kind of a legal environmental question that had not been addressed beforehand, and that put a stop to that meeting right there. And they said, well, we got to run this up the flagpole at TDOT, and I haven't received any follow-up since then. So I don't know what the internal discussions are at TDOT about the bridge, but we did let them know, and I sent them a copy of not only the court order, but where we recorded the deed to show that we had legal possession of the property now. And that was, I think, after Christmas. So I've been trying to follow up with them and see what's going on, see what the status is, but so far I haven't received an update.
Do we have any other business tonight? Mayor, was anything else that you need to get with us on?
No, sir, that should be it. The only other items we have are already in another committee or something.
Mr. Clarity?
Yes, I have a question. When we've done these grants to fix the storefronts, do you know when that's going to start or when anybody's?
That has already started, and all the grants have already been, most of the projects have already been completed, and we're actually closing out the grant at the end of this month, and final closeout with ECD is sometime in mid-April.
Does anyone have any other questions? Mr. Ford?
We're still doing some engineering on it, and I think at the county commission, I asked about everyone's opinion on continuing or doing the street lights like we did down here. Really, the only comment I got on that was from Chairman Jewell. Does anybody else have any comment on that? If you did 4 lights, it'd be about $4,500 a pole. So it's going to pretty much, once you do the lights, it's about $18,000. Once you run the conduit and wiring and everything, it's pretty much going to double the price of the project. I have went back and looked at it. If we are going to do the lights, which I agree with Chairman Jewell, he made the statement, well, if you did it here to make it look pretty, it seems like you would continue on, that we could put 2 lights at the intersection of West Main and Littleton Street where the ADA access and crosswalks are going to be. Given the spacing that you see down here, that shouldn't be too different than the spacing we've got from the lights already down here on Main Street. And so far, then you're doing 2 lights instead of 4. And so that should not add a tremendous amount to the project. I mean, it might add, I don't know, $12,000, $13,000 to it instead of adding 30-something thousand dollars.
And there again, certainly if we're going to make that a parking lot to access the downtown area, it would carry the downtown area further out and make it all congruous is the thoughts. It's a one-time expense, and to, you know, if we're serious about trying to revamp our downtown, it makes sense for us to go ahead and try to do that. That was my thought process, was why I told him I thought it would be more advantageous to go ahead and try to make sure that that was in the project. Mr. Ford.
Has there been any more thought or discussion on trying to give some relief to the red light up yonder, like when the traffic's coming this way? I talked to Mr. Rochelle and our other representative back several years about it. Down where the railroad track was, they could cut a road through there. I'm sure the railroad would give it to them.
There's not enough right of way on that.
Do I?
It's not wide enough. It's not enough right of way in the field that would be required to make a road bed through there was going to be very substantial. That right of way, the right of way is only, I believe it was 25 feet, 30 feet, something like that. You had to have
It's something like, usually when you have a railroad, they convert them into walking trails or something. They don't normally
right.
build roads on them. Now they did do 260, but they widened it beyond what the railroad tracks were. But that project is supposed to go to bid to do the improvements on that intersection. It's supposed to go to bid on March 25th. So that should be going out. And after that, there's 18-month construction time. So that project is moving forward to address the traffic issues there.
Right.
And we also submitted a grant to get, replace our traffic light and equipment up at McMurray and Andrews Avenue. So if we can get newer traffic equipment up there, we can time our signals to move traffic in and out in the mornings and in the evenings. So that should address the traffic flow there. We haven't heard, we did move into the final round of that. It's called Traffic Signal Modernization Grant. We are in the final round for that. They're doing site visits and looking at it. So hopefully we get that grant. And if so, that'll be a drastic improvement once those projects are completed as far as moving traffic in and out.
Well, back on the sidewalk and the lights, I think the lights would be good. Just go ahead and do them like we got downtown here. Are we going to put flowers and trees or just the sidewalk and the lights?
Right now, I think the
It's just going to be the lights. Now we can get some of those flower pots like you see in Gallatin to hang from the street lights, but that section of Main Street doesn't have the width that this section did, where it had the angular parking and they went to parallel. Some of the loss of space is what they turned into the landscaping. Well, the parking on that street, part of the street is already parallel. So if we put that landscaping, we're going to lose all those parking spaces. So it's just pretty much going to be a replacement of the sidewalk, and we can put the street lights on there. We are going to have trash receptacles that are the same kind here, and the street lights will be the same kind that was put out here, but those will be on the sidewalk themselves, whereas here they're in the landscaping.
That answer your question? Any other questions? Public comments. Anybody from the public like to make a comment? Thank you. I don't have anything else. Anyone else, commissioners, y'all have anything that you'd like to bring up tonight? Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ford makes a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ferguson says aye. So I think we're out of here.